Welcome to the Dirtbag Chronicles. My name is Brian. I'm your host. We are gaining progress now on the next episode. We are so thankful for you following us and liking us and helping share this message. Today we have an exciting guest. His name is Sean. And Sean has been in recovery for some time now. So I'm going to kind of let him introduce himself and share a little bit of that information. So Sean, tell us how long you've been clean and sober, and tell us a little bit about where your journey has taken you.
All right. So yeah, like you said, I'm Sean. May 7th, 2018 is my sobriety date. So it's been, if I make it to May, it'll be 5 years. So, whenever I came into recovery, I went back into the last treatment center, my 7th treatment center. I went back there when I had a year sober and got a job there and got into the field of recovery. And so since then, I've been working in recovery. I'm taking a test on April 5th to become a certified peer recovery supervisor for the state of Arkansas. So the last 2 years I've been working at the Hot Springs Police Department. First ever felon to work at the Hot Springs Police Department.
That's what's up. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Responding to overdoses. Every overdose that happened in the city of Hot Springs, I responded to it. They gave me a vehicle and a phone, and I'd go to it and just try to help those people, give them resources to try to get into recovery so that they didn't become another, number on a statistic.
Okay. Okay, so you said you've been to seven different rehabs.
Yeah.
So what were those all in the state of Arkansas, or were you spread around the United States?
No, it was all in Arkansas.
Okay. So the first rehab, how old were you when that happened?
I think that was in 2014, or might have been 2012.
Okay, so you've been trying this shit for a while.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think was it that changed when you went to that 7th rehab?
Well, I think it was an accumulation of going to all the other times and gaining experience each time. The first time that I ever went to treatment, I just thought opiates is my substance of choice. So, I thought that if I could get it out of my system for 30 days and not be withdrawn, then I wouldn't use anymore, and I'd be fine. And that that obviously didn't work because, come to find out later, the substance that I was using, was not the issue. That wasn't the problem. So without a substance, I still had the same, I still had me there. So,
yeah. So you would say that you were the issue, not the drugs.
Yeah. I was using, I thought that, in the beginning, I thought drugs and alcohol was the problem. And that's what's causing me to, destroy my life over and over again. But yeah, when you take all that stuff away, I'm still acting the same way. I still have the same mentality. So, it was definitely, I was the root of all of the issues there.
So would you say the rehab gave you the tools and the resources to change that mentality? Or do you think it just fucking clicked one day and you were like, hey, this is what I need to do now? Or what do you think encouraged you to do so during that time?
Well, I think it was a mixture of both.
Okay.
I had, throughout the time that I was using, I had 14 overdoses where I count an overdose as I had to go to the hospital and they had to bring me back to life. So 14,
how many of those did you say you had?
14 times where I had to be Narcan and brought by an ambulance or something to a hospital. So,
my dude's been through it.
Yeah. Right. So, through that, eventually, the first treatment center I ever went into, they told me the same stuff as they told me the 7th one. They all the same information they're giving me, but it's like it just took me so much experience to be able to actually hold on to what they were trying to tell me. Right.
Yeah, I've been through several rehabs myself, and I think it was like you said, it was all those times of going to rehab and paying attention to hearing this and hearing a little bit of that and a little bit of this and saying, fuck this, but then obeying this and then doing this. And so eventually it all comes to make sense to me after being through all those experiences. But yeah, I think a lot of people will be able to relate with that. So you mentioned something about peer support supervisor and working for the state and going and responding to overdoses. That's got to be kind of a scary job, actually showing up to somebody that had just overdosed and dealing with the trauma with the family and them not understanding. What is like something that you would do for these people to help them understand like that addiction is a disease and that there is hope in that end of the tunnel?
Yeah, well, just the fact of me being there, helps, because I'm able to. There's people are scared, they just overdose. And now there's cops asking them questions. They're like, where'd you get your stuff? And they're like, not wanting to talk to you. Yeah. And then I show up and I have tattoos down to my fingers, and I'm like, hey, I've been through this, man. I know, and I'll be like, I don't have no questions to ask you. You don't need to answer nothing to me. I'm just here to try to help you if you want help, and just like that alone, it helps people. And there was times where over the last 2 years where the detective that I work with would be like, they don't want to talk, man. They're good. They're saying that, they don't want to talk. And then I'd get there, talk to them for a few minutes. And then they're telling me their whole life story, Right. And he's like, what did you say to him? I just told him I've been through the same stuff,
Yeah. So they were able to relate with that. And then it just kind of gave them a sense of comfort. Like, okay, well, he must know what we're going through because he's been through the same shit. Yeah. And that's really the main goal of a peer support, right? Is to show that you've been through it and be able to sit down and look at them eye to eye instead of like an authority over them, and just be there to comfort them and give them tools and resources. Now, would you say that that's something that you've always done naturally, or do you think that came along after the addiction and living that experience and figuring out that that's something that you wanted to do? Because you don't look at this like a job, do you?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, obviously I make I get paid to do it, but it is, for me, the recovery pathway that I chose was a 12-step program. Mm-hmm. So that's how that works. That's how recovery's been working since 1935 is somebody that's dealt with it helps somebody else, So, I'm doing it for a living, but it's kind of how recovery works anyway. So,
yeah. Okay. And you say you worked the 12-step program. Was that a challenge to like surrender to and accept that you had to work a program?
No, because it would have been if I tried it in the first treatment center. Yeah. Because I didn't think I needed to do it, But by this time, after the 7th trip, I was like, I knew that I've tried everything, So I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to listen to people that and whatever the hell they did, that's what I'm going to do. So it was pretty easy at that point, just because I've put myself through so much,
Okay. So, the name of this podcast is the Dirtbag Chronicles. Is there a particular dirtbag story that you can remember that you went through where you came now that you can look back at it and be like, dude, that was fucking shady as fuck on my part. And then like, that was a total dirtbag. Like what are some of those experiences? And the only reason I want to ask you that is because I really feel that there are people that are going to watch this show and they're going to be able to relate with that. And then they're going to get a sense of hope because clearly you're working, you were working at the police station, first felon ever. You're a drug addict, right? Mm-hmm. And you have the same background that somebody that's suffering with right now. So I want you to share some of those experiences so that somebody else can relate to that and understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So if there's a story that you would like to share about one of those experiences, please do.
Man, I have, it's probably a lot of the same stuff a lot of other people have been through, but, the biggest things aside from like when I'm out using, with other people that are using, and there's a lot of like manipulation and, taking this dude gives me his money, to get some stuff, and then he never gets his stuff. But there's times like with my family that, I always would bounce back to my aunt's house, when I was in addiction. I'd show up with this beat up old laundry basket, and they'd freak out because they'd be like, "Oh my God, Sean's trying to stay here again." And there's been times where, where I was staying there with them, and they're letting me stay there, and I was sick, and I knew my aunt had like $40 in her in her purse, and she needed it for the gas bill. But I was like, I can get some H with that, and so I'd go into her purse and take her money, and that was her gas bill money. So
that really fucked up trust there.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your aunt was probably one of your only support systems too. I mean, if you're taking a laundry basket of dirty clothes and she's letting you come over there when she knows you're a fucking dirtbag, and she trusted you a little bit to let you in her house, and then do some shit like that. And it's like, fuck you, Sean, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the, I want to kind of hit back on the overdoses. Like, that's a serious thing. And I think in episode 1, I went over the overdose statistics, and that somebody overdoses and dies. I think it was like, well, I might have to look that up, but I think it was like 275 people every hour or every day. And like that's fucking scary.
The last 2 years we had over 100,000 overdose deaths in the country for the first time in history. We got that high. So
do you think that's mainly, I also want to know if that is mainly caused by fentanyl?
Yeah, it is. And like I've seen working at the police department, there's been overdose deaths where we'd respond to it and the police would do their, investigative work, and they'd come to find out like this guy only used cocaine ever. You know, he didn't do opiates, but then they find out there's, they find some cocaine at his house or whatever, test it, there's fentanyl in it. Same thing with meth. There's people, all they ever used was meth. So everybody's like, I don't know how he died, and there's fentanyl in it. So there's like fentanyl just in everything. They got pills, that look just like, you'd never tell the difference between that and a Roxy, but it's fentanyl pressed. So.
Yeah, I went to go get my hair cut the other day, and they were telling me that they had taken a Xanax bar, and they looked it up, and it looked all legit and everything, and they took it, and then a couple hours later, their significant other walked in, and they were laying on the floor overdosing, and it was fucking fentanyl. And that's fucking scary. I think that's something that motivates me to stay clean and not even try to like dabble in it anymore, because everything is just fucking cut, or it's just, because fentanyl's cheap. And so motherfuckers that are selling it, they're like, they don't care. Because that's that dirtbag mentality. I mean, I know I've done the same shit. Like I told them that it was something, sold them something totally different.
Yeah. And
because I didn't give a fuck what happened to them, instead I just wanted the money so I could go get my real shit and get my high and get my fix. And I was watching a video on social media. It was Boozy, and he was talking to somebody in an interview. We'll probably have to pull this video up and show this. But Boozy was talking about go back to smoking crack because fentanyl is killing everybody. If you guys would just go back to being crackheads, we'll say it'll save all these lives. Yeah. And that sounds good and shit. But like now that we're having this discussion, the crack and the coke and everything else, it's all laced with fentanyl. And like, man, you could be a crackhead all your life and go back to smoking crack and still get the fucking fentanyl overdose, and your life is over. And I've heard this throughout going to rehab and other meetings and stuff like that I've been to, and they talk about like, going out and using one more time. Just go use one more time. Go use one more time. But man, that shit, go use that one last time. And then, people that are drugging and using alcohol, but I'm mainly talking about the drugs, is that we are scared to live, not scared to die, and like, so our life is kind of just, we don't give a fuck when we're getting high. Instead, we're kind of hoping that the fucking drugs kill us.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know I've been there personally. Like, fuck, man, if I do it, I'm just going to do a big shot and I'm going to be out and it's over with. But what that really starts to affect are the families, because, you know, our families, they love us unconditionally, fortunately, you know, and unfortunately, because they got to go through all this shit for us to try to get clean. And then we put them through all this suffering. But it's like, man, if we don't respect our own lives, let's try to respect the lives of our family and their feelings and their emotions and the shit that we'll put them through if we do go out and use again and fucking overdose. It's sad, man. It's fucking sad as fuck, because these people that care about us, they are suffering just as bad as we are as addicts.
You know, I heard something in recovery, everything that you hear is like you heard it from somebody else, you know? But I heard somebody say that they never, have you ever heard this? They said, I never suffered from addiction until I got sober.
Yeah.
Or until I got clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's
absolutely.
like what you're talking about, because you find out that that's not what was making you suffer, you know?
Right. Yeah. We are making ourselves suffer too. Yeah.
And then you're able to, you know, in recovery, you kind of get down to the bottom of all of those things and start being able to fix those things. And then you don't need to get high anymore, you know?
Right. You know, I'm doing step work right now, and like we all are probably, but you know, I had to answer a question this morning, is like, how is my addiction manifesting in my life daily? Now that I'm clean and like, how is this addiction continuing to manifest? And this morning I was like overthinking that shit. I was like, well, fuck, I don't know. Like, how is it, you know? And then I was talking to somebody else and they were like, well, fuck, it manifests in all kinds of different ways. Like, I'm a fucking gambling addict. You know, I don't know if you know some of my story, but like, gambling is a motherfucker. And then, you know, and I also think about like an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic, but I was like a binger. I would go on binges. Like, I don't think I ever woke up and was like, oh, I gotta fucking have a drink. You know, I never experienced that part of alcoholism, but they make that shit so available too. Like the casino here or the casino anywhere. Like, I drive by and I'm like, fuck, man, I just want to, you know, it was St. Patrick's Day and they had these big signs. I was like, today's my lucky day. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's fucking hard to stay clean from all those addictions, all the unhealthy addictions, like, because it just continues to manifest in every way of my life. And it's a fight, you know, it's fucking getting clean and getting away from that addiction and choosing something else. You have to find some kind of purpose. And, you know, for you, this career field that you've chosen, or do you think that you chose that career field, or do you think that career field kind of chose you? Yeah,
probably, you know, maybe a little bit of both, but definitely that job that I've had for the last 2 years at the police department, I didn't even know, you know, somebody called me and was like, hey, this job will be perfect for you. And it just so happens that they need somebody to respond to overdoses, to try to bring the number of overdoses in Hot Springs down. So
do you think that, so like, purpose is what is helping me keeping me clean as well? And do you think that is your purpose, or do you think there's a greater purpose than just helping others?
Yeah, I think it's more to it than in the beginning. It was just, you know, and that's how recovery works. You're just helping this guy.
Yeah.
Now getting into what I do, you know, there's like a bigger picture of it, you know, like with stigma, you know, and people looking down, you know, and people are scared to go ask for help because they're, you know, the whole society looks at them horrible, and being able to try to fight that on a bigger scale to me is a big deal. And then you're able to take somebody like me who was stealing my aunt's gas money, you know, gas bill money 5 years ago. And now like people ask me, you know, to come and speak at events and teach them stuff. You know, like last October, I spoke at a conference in Dallas. I'm not speaking at this one, but I'm about to go to one in Pensacola Beach next week. So, you know, I am speaking at a conference here in September in Arkansas on peer supervision. But so there's a lot of there's a lot of, it's just it's weird. If you'd known me 5 years ago, that dude with the laundry basket to the guy now where people are like, hey, we'll fly you down here to speak at this conference. Right. That's insane, you know?
Yeah. And so that is fucking insane, but it's a sense of hope too. Like, because for me, you know, I saw two people that had changed their life tremendously. And when I saw that they could do it and saw the end results of what they were doing with that change, it motivated me to want the same thing. So like the people, you know, they preach this in recovery is you have to change your people, places, and things. And so you know, out of all the times I've been through rehab and jail and prison, it never really started to make sense until like I actually saw two people that I looked up to and was like, fuck, man, those are the kind of people that I have to be around, you know, and I can't be around people that are just fucking kicking it, hanging out, bored, not doing shit with their life, because that's, you know, that's their purpose in life. But when you surround yourself with people like yourself that have a purpose, that are driven every morning to get up, to do something with that experience and not just waste that experience, you start to find people that you want to surround yourself with, and you're just like, fuck, man, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. And I can do it because that fucking dirtbag right there is fucking doing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what really is helping keep me clean and sober, is the people that I surround myself with, like people like yourself. And so, you know, because you're not some superhero, are you?
No,
like you're not some fucking magician. You like fucking drank some special water or something and were able to get these results.
Yeah, I just listened to some other dude that did it.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah,
that was like the simple secret to it all.
Just fucking copy and paste. Like we don't have to reinvent this fucking wheel of getting clean or staying clean. Like you just find somebody that has done it, that is doing it, and that continues to make progress and growth in their life in that area, and then just copy what the fuck they do. And, you know, as addicts and as a felon, it's fucking hard to surrender to other people and listen to what they have to say. But so with that being said, is there somebody that was in your life that you were like, that you had that same kind of epiphany with, where you were like, this motherfucker's got it. Like I need to pay close attention to that. And so was there a person in your life like that? And if so, like, what was it that you saw in them besides just being clean that made you want what they had?
Well, there's been a few different people like that since, you know, in my recovery. In the beginning, when I started out 5 years ago, my biggest goal in life was to get my driver's license.
Fuck yeah, that's a lot of people's.
Yeah, and I thought if I did that, man, I was
fucking in there,
you know. Yeah. And I didn't even know that was the littlest accomplishment I would make, you know. And so like when I saw somebody that had their driver's license and a nice car and they had their own house, I was like, hey, I want, you know. Yeah. And then that evolves over time, you know, that I started being able to get those things way quicker than I thought I would. You know, I'd have a driver's license, a car, and renting my own place within a year, you know, of recovery. I thought it'd take me 10 years to do all that, you know. So then, you know, as time goes on, then, you know, I'm starting to, you know, and I surrounded myself with people like that, people in recovery, my sponsor, you know, other people that had more recovery than me, you know, a little more wisdom than me, is who I kind of hung around. When I stayed in a recovery home, you know, Kim Free, when I got out of treatment, and the 12-step program that I chose to go with was different than everybody else's, you know? So, you know, some people think that, oh, you know, each one is based off of a substance, but, you know, neither one of them are based off of a substance. So I chose the one where there's all these boring old guys that have boats and shit, you know, because I want to be a boring old guy with a boat one day, you know. So that's the one that I went to, and I started, you know, being around those kind of people. I started figuring out that my long-term goals were actually short-term goals, you know. And I thought, like 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, all right, within 10 years, I want to be able to buy a house, you know? And 5 years ago, you'd never convinced me I'd ever be able to buy a house, you know?
Right.
And now on April 3rd, I'm getting the keys to my first house.
That's what's up. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. And then like the question you asked, you know, what are things about those people is I started seeing that people like me who have been through what I've been through can start making a real impact, you know, in the state of Arkansas, not just like in my city or with my people. And I saw, you know, laws were changing, you know, where felons could work at a police department, you know, all this
that's
stuff.
Incredible.
And all that comes from a guy who's in recovery, you know, and he's been to prison, you know, a billion times. And, you know, he's working in a state position now, you know, and so stuff like that, you know, all that, you know, we have a purpose for what we're doing, and we were able to turn our past, you know, into a purpose. Yeah. But the purpose is we're able to give hopeless people hope, you know? Yeah. Because there was a time where I was shocked that I'd get a driver's license, you know? So I had no hope back then, you know? And just looking around at other people was able to give me hope and make me kind of convince me that I could do some of those things. Yeah. So
there's, you know, getting a fucking driver's license is to somebody that hasn't had one in 10, 15, 20 years, or that's never had one, or even somebody that lost it last year because of a DWI and they're just swamped in fines and fees and classes. And it's like, dude, it's never going to happen. Yeah. But if you know, and that's kind of what your job is too, is to kind of give them those resources to be like, okay, this is what we got to do. Yeah. And that's incredible that like, the state actually recognizes that active addicts or recovering addicts actually need that resource, and you're like, okay, well, fuck it. Well, we're gonna make sure that there's enough money to pay somebody to actually be that resource to go out and not feel like it's the police trying to be over them and tell them what to do or anything, because you're just a regular dude that just wants to help, and you just have a good relationship with the police where you can get things done and push for people to have shit go forward for them. And you know, I'm going to be starting my peer support training this next week, which I'm really excited about, because you know, this is where I found my purpose as well. And like, I do this podcast because it's a purpose that I found, not the podcast necessarily as a purpose, but sharing this message with others, making it a source for others to be able to relate to my struggle and guess that I have your struggle, and being able to hear that and relate to the bullshit and the dirtbag lifestyle that we were so caught up in. And now we have used that, like we get to use that experience to give them now. And that's like the most powerful thing that I've found. And because I found that, like I found my purpose to share that with others. And so going into this peer support training and being able to give that to others, it just adds to my purpose. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily my exact purpose, but it adds to the purpose that's going to give me that drive. And it's also going to hold me like accountable to stay clean and stay sober and stay in my program, because, you know, that's something that I understand as well. And I'm sure you kind of understand this too. If we quit working that program, or if we quit working on ourselves and trying to figure that out, then we're just going to like be stagnant. We're going to be dead spiritually, and we're not going to grow, and then we're not going to be able to live out that purpose. So it just all lines up. Now, would you say that the program that you're working, what would you say that the most valuable part of that program is?
It helped me to discover what the problem was, because that's, you know, I had no idea. I didn't know what was going on, why I did this. So it helped me kind of discover what the problem was, and being able to know what the problem is to something is how you figure out what the solution is. Yeah. And for me, I mean, there's all sorts of different solutions for addiction and alcoholism, different ways that people get into recovery.
Mm-hmm.
For me, though, they had a solution that worked for me.
Yeah.
So that's like the best part of it for me is being able to figure out what a solution is to why I acted the way I acted and how to stop acting that way.
And I'm sure that you just saw that that solution was a good solution because it worked for somebody else.
Yeah.
Like I had this problem for a while, you know, like I'm a little over 24 months clean now. And I just started working the program, but like full-heartedly giving it my all, really diving into it. Like I've dove into a little bit of the program here and a little bit of there. It's kind of like how we go to rehab so many times and then we relapse and we go back. But like, I didn't believe, like, I was like, oh no, the program ain't for me. You know, oh no, it's just not for me. Like I understand that it works for some other people, but no, it's not for me. Did you ever have that thinking as well? Like, well, like there was a different way that you could do it.
Yeah, that's probably why I went to treatment 7 different times. You know, I always thought, because, you know, they would tell me, you know, get a sponsor, work the steps, you know, do all this. And I'd be like, I don't need to do any of that. I just need to get out of my system for, you know, a month. Or I'd be like, I'm just going to switch to this. Like I always told myself I didn't have a problem with alcohol, you know, because I'm not like a person who was like shaking and withdrawing because of alcohol.
Right.
You know, so I would always be like, all right, I'm going to go to rehab, get all these substances away, and I'm just going to drink because I don't have a problem with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discovered that I have a problem with anything that does that to me.
Right.
So, I tried half of the ways that you could try to get sober or clean out there, I invented. So
come on.
And they didn't work for me. So
yeah. So, and you know, my first guest that I had on the podcast, his name was Aaron, and he said something that like really, really stuck with me. And I think about this all the time. And what it was like, he realized he was an addict because when he was young, he would try to change the effect of how he felt by closing his eyes and spinning around in circles and getting dizzy, and he liked it. Is that something that you experienced as well as a child?
Well, yeah, I actually did that exact same thing, and I have now right here on my thumb, there's a scar and my bone like pops out like that because when I was like 10 years old, I did that. Yeah. And I looked up to the sky, closed my eyes, and started spinning real fast. And then I started like running across some concrete and tripped and fell and broke this bone out of my skin, you know, but yeah, I used to do that exact same thing. It was stupid, but you know, I'd run inside, I was bleeding, and my grandpa was like, dumbass, you know, you're gonna have to take you to the hospital. But yeah, I did that exact same stuff. And why else would I be out there just spinning to make myself dizzy other than it felt cool?
Yeah, it felt good. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know how I remember this. It was just us talking right now. But like I used to take my hair and I would put it in the electric outlet just to electrocute myself. And it was like, oh, and then I would step back and I'd be like, oh, that felt fucking good. Like, what the fuck? Fucking idiot, you know? But I would find myself trying to change the way that I feel all the time. And you know, I fought it too. I don't know if you did this, but like, I was like, no, I'm not an addict. You know, I'm not an addict. What are you talking about? Like, and I fought that. And like, now that I look back at it, I'm like, what a fucking idiot. Like,
I was the last person to know.
Yeah.
Cause like, when I went to go tell my family, you know, I got this problem and I want to go to rehab, I was like, look, I've been using drugs and I'm having trouble. So they're like, thank God you're admitting it. I'm like, how did you guys knew about this? And they're like, yeah, everybody knows about it. And I'm like, well, hell, I just realized it.
Yeah. It's crazy how like from the outside looking in, you can be like, dude is about to like just hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
But that's part of that process too. You've got to allow people to go into their suffering and go through all that trauma and lose everything and hit that rock bottom so that because nobody can get you clean. Nobody can make you get sober. Nobody can make you do anything. You have to have that for yourself. And it's all about what happens with you and where you decide to go with that. You know, I've heard a lot of people say, I'm going to get clean so I can be a father and because my kids need me to be clean. That doesn't fucking work, does it? It doesn't ever work like that. And so like, I encourage anybody that's watching, if you're trying to get clean and sober for somebody else, it's not going to fucking happen. Like, it's not going to happen. But the moment that you realize that you want to be clean because you're tired of it and that you want a different result, then you can start changing that desire and focusing on something different for life that you are experiencing. I want to hit on a few other things. Like, I want to go back to some of these overdoses because there's a bad drug problem here in Hot Springs, just like there is anywhere. But like, this is where I did most of my dirtbag shit, was right here in Hot Springs, and the people here are fucking crazy as fuck. Like, I mean, I've never seen it like here, like anywhere else. And I've been all over the United States. Like, there are some real dirtbags here. What is like, I want you to give me an example of like one of the most memorable experiences that you dealt with in that field and going to deal with that.
Well, it's been, there was a couple, there's a lot of times where I've seen death, where somebody dies from an overdose. But there was two Thanksgivings ago, there was this girl who overdosed. They called me at it was like 8:30 at night, like the day before Thanksgiving, like, hey, this girl overdosed, can you respond? So, I went to the hospital and went in there and talked to her, and she talks to me for a minute. She starts crying. She's got her boyfriend, who's out there trying to act like he don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And, he's the source, but so yeah, I talked to him and I was like, what, she's going to die, man. Like, if she does this again, she may not be able to make it, because when she overdosed, it was in a parking lot of Sutherland's, and, they were scared to call the cops. So they ended up having to call somebody else that had Narcan to come, give her Narcan. And then they ended up calling an ambulance. The woman with the Narcan did, because they were like, you can't get in trouble for it, Yeah. So I was like, if this happens again, man, she's not going to, wake up. And he was just in denial. He's like, well, I don't, we've been clean.
Scared.
Yeah. He's like, we've been clean. We just used just once, and I'm like, well,
me too.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, but I'm just letting you know, if you guys do this again, either you or her may not, make it out of that. So I was like, you should think about that, and ask him, does he, have you thought about just trying to get clean again? Cause he said he'd been in treatment. And he's like, no, I'm not going to use no more, So, and I talked to her and she starts crying, and talking about all this stuff. And she's like, I do want to go to treatment. So I was like, okay. So I was like, stay here at the hospital, let them take care of you. And when you leave, tomorrow, I'll get you in a treatment center. Right. So, she ends up, leaving, against medical advice, like right after I left with him. And then the next day we had to go to a house and get her body out of the house. And that dude was there, crying. He's like, I don't know what. I was like, man, I just talked to you guys last night, Yeah. But that was a big, that sucks when you go in and you talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, I want to go. And then the next day they're dead. And I mean, it's possible that she may not have even used any more stuff. Once that Narcan wears off, you can go right back into an overdose. So yeah, it's possible that happened, but it sucks, when stuff like that. And then I kept working on the guy, trying to be like, hey, do you want to go to treatment?
He never went.
No. And a lot of times, and I will say this, we've been able to change. I don't know. It's not like my fault or anything, but since I've been there, we've been able to change the number of overdoses like drastically in the city of Hot Springs.
Okay. That's good news.
Yeah. But still when the people that overdose, those are the least likely at that moment to actually be able to help them, because they're usually just like sick and, they're withdrawing off the Narcan and they just want to go back and use again. Right. And a lot of times you go plant a seed. Like with her, she was like, yeah, I'll go tomorrow. Usually that don't happen. But I would plant a seed, and give them a card. It's got my phone number on it. And then like 3 weeks later, they'll call me and be like, hey, I want to go to treatment now. Yeah. So that was the cool thing about it. But it always sucked, and then I'm not going to keep going into other stories, but it always sucks when you go out and then somebody dies. But
yeah. Would you say that you get emotionally attached to that, or is that something that you have learned? I'm sure you did at first, but like now you've learned to just kind of understand that an active addict is going to be an active addict, and there's nothing that you can really do. Like we were just talking about earlier, like they have to make that decision for themselves. But still, like, I know that I have a huge heart. And it's going to be hard for me in this field to not be emotionally attached. But like, what is something that you do to keep yourself from being so emotionally involved in that?
Well, for me, and I think you'll discover this for yourself, I got to a point where I had to be careful not to become too calloused almost. Because you see this so much, yeah. It starts getting to where almost like there's no reaction anymore, Yeah. So I've had to kind of make sure that I don't get too, detached from it.
Right.
So, in the beginning, it was pretty hard, but now I try not to put any expectations on somebody. That's the best way to do it, is if I'm working with somebody who's using, I have no expectations on them. Right. Yeah. So then whatever they do, they're not going to disappoint me or make me happy. It's them. It's on them. And whatever they do is what they're going to be able to do,
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, real quick, I want to take a moment and I want to thank everybody for your support and helping us get started on this. We're in such the beginning process of this podcast and this production. But right now, like, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our fans and our listeners and everybody that is supporting this in any way, whether you're just listening to it, whether you're sharing it, whether you're liking our YouTube channel, our Instagram, our Facebook page, our TikTok, whatever platform you're following this on, we appreciate you. And we want to just make a huge shout out to you for doing what you're doing, and we ask that you continue to show that support and share this content, because we can't make this happen without you. Another shout out that I want to do is to Indie Studios. Man, they are doing an incredible job. Not only do I have a professional relationship with them, but it's also personal. And they are growing so much right now. And it's so exciting to see you guys do what you're doing in the music world, in the podcast world, and everything. So huge shout out to you guys. We love you, and we're so thankful for you. Another shout out is to our social media content creator. Thank you, Bailey, because you have really set the pace for us to grow and just made things happen for us. So thank you for your support and all of your creativity and everything that you're doing. So huge shout out to you. We love you. And anybody else that's out there that we don't know about, but you're watching, here lately I've heard people talking about, I was over at so-and-so's house and I thought they were listening to some other podcast, and then it was your podcast. And so I want to give you my love today and give that shout out to you. So thank you very much. So to kind of wrap up things here, it's really exciting to have you on this show because you're going to be somebody that I'm going to be looking at and have you mentor me so that I can do the most and be successful in this line of career. So it's thrilling to have you on the show and kind of hear about your experiences and understand what you're doing has purpose and what you're doing you're passionate about because I'm very passionate about this area of people's lives as well, because I understand how fucked up addiction can be. And I understand what it can do to somebody, not because I've heard other people tell that story, but because I've lived the experience myself. Yeah. I've wrecked everything in my life, and it sounds like you've done the same thing. I mean, 14 fucking overdoses. That's incredible. Yeah. That's and you were an opiate addict. I was never too much of an opiate addict, but don't get it twisted. Like, I'm a fucking drug addict. Like, if there was heroin there, I'm fucking shooting heroin. If there was pills to be popped, no matter what the effect was that I didn't like or did like, I was taking it because it was a drug. So thank you for coming on the show and kind of just sharing a little bit of that information with us, and hopefully that there's somebody out there that can hear it and see the progress that you've made in your life now and where you came from, and probably somebody out there that knows you that's like, dude, is a living testimony of what recovery can do for somebody. So there is hope out there. What is some advice, or do you have any advice for somebody that's out there that's watching, that's suffering from addiction right now?
Yeah, I would say just, find somebody that's, been through the same stuff, and, just ask them what they did and listen to them.
Do what they fucking tell you.
Don't argue with them because they know. I used to do that. Early in recovery, my sponsor would be like, I want you to make your bed every day.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the hell does that got to do with keeping me sober? And he's like, you don't know shit about what's going to keep you sober. Right. So make your bed.
Right.
So
would you say that you listened and you do make your bed every day?
Now I don't. But at that time, yes. Yeah. Like my first 2 years, I made my bed after that conversation with him. Yeah. Now I've kind of gotten nowhere. Yeah. But I do other things that help me stay sober now. So
yeah. Well, good. So we're talking about the most important piece of or suggestion that we can give you on this show is find somebody that you can look up to that has something that you want, and whether that's a car or a house or
driver's license
or a salary or a job or a family or whatever that is. Find something that you can relate to that person, and then ask them, hey, bro, or hey, girlfriend, how did you get that? What did you do to get to that position in your life? And then when they tell you, don't just hear it, listen to them, and then apply whatever they tell you to do. Surrender to that process and be like, okay, well, this is what that person did. This is what I'm going to do. This is what they're telling me to do. This is what I want to do, but I'm not going to do that. So follow their instructions. But you have to find that person. You have to surround yourself with those people that have what you want.
Yeah.
You have to. There's no other way around it. There's not some loophole that you can jump through. There's not some portal that you can go from this part of your life into the fucking next part of your life and just everything be better. You have to put in the work. You have to learn to obey. You have to surrender. And everything else will fall in place because we were talking earlier, getting our driver's license, that was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Now we're I've got a driver's license, so that's really not that big of a deal.
Well, and it's funny because at the time I'd tell people hey, I got my driver's license. They're like, so?
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
Had your driver's license.
How old are you? Yeah. and then a car, you might not have a car right now. And that's a goal to set for yourself, and find somebody that has a fucking car, and then ask them what they did to get that car. But then when you get that car, continue to look for shit that other people have in recovery that you want, like clean time.
And then people will start asking you, how'd you do this?
And that's what's fucking crazy, because you're like, fuck, I don't even remember that process. Like how the fuck did I get that? You know, and then you're like, dude, I just been winging it like a little baby bird for like all my clean time, and this is how I did it. But trust the process, and know that you're gonna have to make yourself uncomfortable to get to a level of comfort. You're going to have to step outside of that comfort zone. You're going to have to put in the fucking work to make things happen. Nothing is just going to come easily until you start getting that routine and getting that motion and that flow of things. And then opportunities are going to continue to breed opportunities. But so you have any other advice or any suggestions or anything that you want to give out there?
That's it, man. Just, just do what somebody else did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this wraps up, I think it's episode 6 now. That's crazy. Like, this is the most consistent I've ever been in my life. It's like doing something every week and then staying on top of it. But so again, shout out to everybody that is watching, listening. We are working on getting this message on more platforms so that people can find it in different areas instead of on just the simple platforms that we have. But we're growing. We're in the process of making this bigger, but we can't do that without you. So go to our Facebook page. I think on our Facebook page, we just hit 100 likes, which isn't a huge deal, but it's a big fucking deal to me, because that means that I'm continuing to help people grow and people are getting this message. And that's what's important to me, is that this message is being shared and people are hearing it. And then we just started the Instagram page. We're going to be putting a lot of our social media content on that Instagram, because we do a lot of pictures, a lot of motivational videos. And then we have our YouTube channel, the Dirtbag Chronicles podcast. And we figured out that the more shorts that we do, people engage. So we're going to start creating a lot more content with that, so that the little parts of these messages, because I understand these fucking podcasts can be long as fuck, and I can't even pay attention to fucking one little phone call from somebody. So, but if you endured a whole hour of our podcast, thank you. But be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share this message, because that's why we are doing this, is to put the message out there so that people that are suffering or that are going through times in their sobriety and clean time, that you guys have a source of hope and a message to hold on to, and that you can see that this does work if you work it. We love you. If you are suffering, or if you know that somebody knows somebody that is suffering, please reach out to us. You can email us at dirtbag.guest@gmail.com. Or you can message us on Facebook, Instagram, leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos, however you feel comfortable doing so. So reach out to us. We love you. We thank you. Light and peace. Support me, please. Fuck.